Okay, so in this video, we are going to talk about how I want you to turn your four sketches, your problem 25, 6, 7, and 8, which are right here, into an AutoCAD drawing, right? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go and you're going to open up your 13 isometrics from last quarter. So I'm going to mine, which that is not where they are. They are in this for me. Isometric, AutoCAD, drawings, perfect. And then what I want, isometric 9 is what I want. So that's opening. You're going to take that drawing that we hybrided you take that drawing from last quarter and you're going to hybrid into this one, which should make your things a lot easier. This is a good technique for how to kind of move on. When you have a new drawing, take something else that you already know works, a title block that you already have, a set of drawings that you already like. So to start, I'm going to go, and the very first thing, and this is super important, go to the big A, go to File, go to Save As, and you're going to rename this something else. So right now it's called Duff Isometric 9. I'm going to call this Duff Ortho Graphic. And I'm going to save mine on my desktop since I have a whole bunch of these already, and I kind of want to save the one that I have going. But you should save this into your network folder. I'm saving this here. You should save it into your network folder. So now it's open, and I have a saved copy of it, so I can go through, and I can take all of this, and I can delete it. Yes, I know that's an entire quarter's worth of work, but you already have it saved as duff.isometric. Mine is duff.isometric.9. Yours is whoever you are, .isometric. So the first thing we have to address is we are going to draw lines that are straight up and down now. We're no longer working an isometric view. So I'm going to come down here to this X with a green and red X here, and I'm going to click on that, and that gets all of my stuff going this direction, which is a good thing. I also want to go to my polar. I'm not going to work in a 30. So when you first turn this on, most likely you are going to be in a 30. Switch that to a 45. Okay. So after I'm done doing that, I have to make a new layer. I want to make a construction line layer. And I want this to kind of piggyback off of something that we've been working on. I don't want to I want to use construction lines just like we had been doing. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go to New, and I'm going to name a layer Construction. Okay? And then I'm going to leave it white, and I'm going to keep it, I'm going to make sure it's nice thin line. I'm going to change my line weight to 0.05. Say okay? And then the second thing I want to do is I want to go to my object layer, and I'm going to change the color of my object layer. Blue is my preferred color here, just because blue will stand out on the white drawing, but it'll also stand out in the black, so you'll see it too. Like if you don't want to choose gray because it barely stands out in the blue, and you don't want to choose gray because it barely, or yellow because it barely stands out in the white. So say okay, there's that, and I want to beef up my color. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to make it right now the darkest line weight we have is 0.07 in this title block. I'm going to make my object layer especially thick, 0.06 or 0.6. Okay, so let's. We missed that. We ended up at 0.07, 0.6. Say okay, and then we're done with that. The other thing I want to make sure we don't forget to do is if you don't have line weight here, you can grab it from up here, make sure it's on. So go to line weight, and then turn it on. That'll help your things too. All right. So my first move, and if you haven't gotten this far, and for some reason you're watching this for the first time, I'm drawing this drawing right here. I'm trying to do my best to kind of go back and forth to it, but honestly, at this point, if you're watching the video, you should already have a pretty good idea of what I'm drawing. But that's the drawing I'm going to draw. So let's see. Maybe I can even shrink this down a little bit so we can see both, so it's a little easier to reference. So let's go like this, and we'll do this a little bit, and then maybe I can stick this thing here. I lost my grid, but it's not like my grid is the most important thing in the whole world. So let's go and try to shrink this down. Something like that. We can kind of see that, so we'll stick that over here, and we'll try to draw from there. Oh, my grid came back when I switched onto this, so that's good. All right, so there's my drawing. So I'm going to go and I'm going to work in my construction layer. What I don't like about this is I've lost the look of all this because I want it to be the same as what you're used to looking at. So I'm going to try to do this a little bit. Maybe that'll work. That's somewhat small, but now you can kind of see it. I don't know. That might be the best we can do. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to switch to my construction layer, and I'm going to start drawing my construction lines. And now, with the construction layer, I'm going to specifically draw construction lines. So C-O-N-S-T, C-O-N will probably get you there, but construction. And I'm going to ask me where I want to start it. I'm going to start mine, just because it's my first drawing, at 0, 0. Enter. Okay. Awesome. So now I want a line to go straight up and down. I can click here, and I'm going to click there, and my drawing is going to fit into this corner at 0, 0. So I want to draw my front view. Okay, so CON, enter. So now what I want to do is I want to move up 0.5, right? This, if you look here, is a ½ an inch, and from here to here is a ½ an inch. So I want to come up 0.5. So the goal is to hold where my starting point is, and then I want to drag up slowly. So it already didn't go great. There it is. You need that little X that's going to show up on your cursor. So slide up, it goes away. I did it a second time, and there it is. And now if I hit 0.5, it'll track me up here. Now, this is a common problem people have. Like, oh, that's really small. Or if you're zoomed out further, you might not see it at all. You might be like, where did it go? If I zoom in, now I can see my 0.5. And these are 1/4 inch squares. So, again, also a little bit of a reference to make sure things went well. My 1/4 inch square, and I got a ½ an inch. So it looks like I must have done that right. Okay, so let's do it again. CON, enter. Go to my point, drag up. And it's another ½ an inch. So enter, then click over. Now, a good AutoCAD term, if you haven't picked this up yet, is if I'm in a tool and I want to get out of it and then use it again, enter, enter. Enter gets me out. Enter gets me right back in. So now if you also notice this is a ½ an inch thick. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to drag my mouse over. 5. Enter. Click up. And again, these lines that it's drawing are infinitely long. Like they go on forever and ever and ever. We'll talk about how to deal with that. But these are construction lines, and that's the point of them. Okay, awesome. So then from here, I'm going to draw my 45. So I'm going to go to CON, and I'm going to click into my corner here. And because I changed this to 45, it should snap right on the 45-degree line for me, which it did. Okay, so let's do it again. CON. I'm going to come up. I want my spacing in between views to be a ½ an inch. So 0.5. And now I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to click on that spot. Okay, enter, enter. And now I've got to go up the overall width of my drawing. The overall width, so from top to bottom, so from here up is 1.38. So I come back over, I hold my mouse here, and I'm going to go 1.385. 1.385. Enter. Over here. Enter, enter. I'm going to click here since I wish I'd done a little bit sooner. Enter, enter. And I'm projecting my lines down to start carving out my right side view. Now the last line I need is this one right here. CON, enter. It is 0.75 up from here. 0.75, enter. Sorry, I went a little crazy there, but there we go. Click there. Enter, enter. Click here. Click down. And now we have all of the makings of our object. So now that we have that, I'm going to go through and I'm going to put object layers down to draw my object. So I'm going to go to object. And now instead of going to construction line, I'm going to go to the regular line tool. I'm going to click on my object, and I'm going to start tracing over the stuff that I want to see. Right? This is my object. Enter, enter. Okay? Enter, enter. Here, and here, and there. Clicking around my object. And then I'm going to come over here, get my top view in. Enter, enter. And now you can see my object layer sitting on top of my construction lines. Okay, awesome. So now the last thing I want to do before I move to the other to paper space here is I've got these construction lines going off to all over the place, like really, really far away. So I'm going to go back to the construction layer and I'm going to draw a rectangle around my object. Doesn't matter what size it is. You know, the closer to the actual size it would be, the better. Click here, click there, good enough. Now I'm going to trim away the rest of the construction lines, but I'm asking you, I want you to leave the majority of them. So what I'm doing is I'm using that box as my trim spot. Awesome. And now I have a box where I have some construction lines, but not an infinite amount, because I'm going to do another drawing here or there or wherever it ends up. So now I'm going to come over here to ISO 1. So I want my object to show up here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this viewport. Okay? Click delete. Then I'm going to go and I'm draw another one. VPORTS is viewports. This box comes up. I'm going to click single. Say OK. Trace it in here. And it's going to start me over like I've never drawn a viewport. So the first thing I'm going to do is turn off my grid, which I need to be inside here to do that. So click my grid. Then I'm going to go, and I just happen to know, because I've done this a bunch of times already, that I want this to be a scale of 1.5 to 1, as I think it was. I have a bad habit of grabbing the wrong one every time. I think it's that one, that 150%. Yep, that's it. And my drawing is definitely looking a little weird here. So double click here, back inside. And now what I want to do is I want to turn off all of my construction lines. I want to leave my object layers on, which I don't see right now. So I'm not sure why, but we'll figure out in a second. So I'm going to go to my construction layer, and there's a tool here, right? It's called Freeze or Thaw in Current Viewport. So I'm going to freeze these so you don't see them in my viewport, but they still exist over here in model space, right? So there's my construction lines. They're there. They exist, but I'm not showing them here. Does that make sense, hopefully? Okay, awesome. So there's my object. We like how that turned out. I am then going to... actually, let's just take a peek and make sure that 0.2 doesn't work. So 2 to 1 doesn't work. So let's click on there. 2 to 1 looks a lot better to me, so I'm going to make it 2 to 1. That's awesome. We like that. And then I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to rename this. Rename Ortho. Let's call this 25, since that's what problem it is. Ortho. And then what will happen is, if you remember, this field is linked to this tab. So if I type REA, it will refresh, and that turns into Ortho. My drawing is still called 13 isometrics, which isn't great. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to go to the big A, and I'm going to go to Drawing Utilities, then Drawing Properties, and I'm going to rename my drawing Ortho, all caps, Graphic Projection. Say OK. And again, REA. We fit perfect there. If for some reason you didn't make your title block quite right, it doesn't fit, you could put Ortho Projection or Ortho Project, but generally that's what we're going for. I've also, if you notice, lost my scale here, which I would like to get back. So I'm going to click this, and I'm going to delete it. And if you remember how to do this, it's FIELD, enter. And then this box comes up, and I want to choose Object from here. And then I want to choose Object from here, and then I want to click this, and I'm going to click on my viewport. Right? It says, what do I want? I want the viewport. Choose Standard Scale, uppercase, say OK. And now I should be able to drag this into place. If we had a real specific place, we put it earlier. Also, if you notice, mine is too big, right? My 2 to 1, it should be the same as my date, I believe, is what we decided. So come up here and go to Annotate, and instead of Standard, choose it to Date, which I actually think that looks kind of small, so maybe I am going to put it on a different one. I don't know. Entries, maybe. Labels, you can kind of preview it. Entries doesn't look bad. Annotative, drawing number is way too big. I guess we'll go entries. All right, so that's a better size. Wish it was bolded, but we can work on that later. So that's the majority of what you need to do in order to get your views in. The next video, we're going to talk about how to dimension it so that you know what's going on there. But that should be enough to get you going for a while. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to come up and ask.